Be brave, be fierce, and be visionary. Mend the parts of the world that are within your reach. To live this way is the most dramatic gift you can ever give to the world. Consider yourself assigned. Opening words by Clarissa Estelle. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our service here at Brighton Unitarian Church. And for those of you that are joining us online this morning, however you find yourself in this morning, whether you are full of the joys of or you're still half asleep, we welcome every part of you. If you're new to the church for the first time this morning, a special welcome. We will have some readings, we'll do some singing, we'll have some reflection, and after our service we join for tea and coffee. And any questions that you have, we'd be welcome to answer those after the service. But we come first to the lighting of the chalice, which is what we do at this church, and most Unitarian churches do at the beginning of our service. It's a symbol of our free religious faith. It's also a sign of hope and a light of direction. We light this chalice in the early weeks of this new year, letting go of what has been, open and hopeful for what may come. Hopefully renewed and restored and ready to live life fully anew. May we move forward with intention, with this light to guide us. Let us just take a moment in prayer. We listen to these words by Tamara Lebac, which is called a prayer of seeking, and it's inspired by Psalm 139. God of many names, you who have searched what is hidden within us and who knows us to our core, our intentions, our wounds, our aspirations and our dreams. You who is familiar with all our ways, even before a word is on our tongue. You know us completely. When we were made in the secret place of our mother's womb, when we were woven together, when we awake to the wondrous beauty that surrounds us, or are opening to the frightening world that we live, if we look behind the veil, there you will be. We enjoy this day because we are wonderfully made. These are the prayers of our hearts. Amen and blessed be. We come together to sing our first hymn this morning, which is number 43 in the Purple Book, and it's called Gather the Spirit. It goes straight in, Stuart, doesn't it? Yeah, we don't get any lead in, so we stand and prepare and get ready, and then we sing along with the music. So here we are, 43, Gather the Spirit. The Spirit of water seeds for the soul in old age slow. Nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the Spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding to all. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Our first reading this morning is a story for all ages, and it's called The Power of Intention, and it's read by Jeanette.
A Story for All Ages, The Power of Intention by Alvaro. Once upon a time in the bustling city lived a little boy named Tim. He was not an ordinary boy. He possessed a gift and truly believed that he had the power to make his intentions come true. Tim was only 7, but he handled his special ability with maturity beyond his years. He saw his powers not at all as a toy and used it with great responsibility. Thanks. One day he was playing in the park and he witnessed an incident that tugged at his conscience. He saw a few older kids bullying a puppy, and the sight made his heart ache. He decided to intervene. However, being small and frail, Tim knew he stood no chance against the older boys. He turned to his power, closing his eyes to concentrate on his intention. I intend for the puppy to be safe. As he opened his eyes, he saw a park ranger approach. He had received an anonymous tip about a bullying incident, and he explained, and had come to rescue the puppy and reprimand the boys. Tim watched in wonder. As his intention came to life, this further strengthened his belief in his power. He vowed to use it to help anyone that he could. He decided to use his gift to the city. He started setting daily intentions intended for the homeless to get food, for the sick to find healing, and for the sad to find happiness. And every day these intentions manifested. Soup kitchens opened up in various neighborhoods. Hospitals received anonymous donations. People started finding reasons to smile again, and the city was changing. However, not everyone was content with these changes. Mayor Biggs was suspicious and feared losing his election due to these developments. Meanwhile, Tim was unaware of the suspicion, as he was too focused on settling fair elections for his beloved city. Election day came. Tim held his special coin, a lucky charm his grandmother had given him. Fair elections, he whispered, and tossed the coin into the air. As election results were announced to Mayor Biggs, his consternation and the city's surprise, a new mayor was elected, someone with a reputation for honesty and goodwill. Tim's intentions had worked again. The city thrived under the new mayor, and Biggs became a changed person. He found a new person in serving the city and its people genuinely. Tim continued to use his gift, changing his city one tension at a time, showing that the power of good intention could indeed bring about a lot of possible change.
Thank you, Jeanette. Jeanette was tasked with that this morning, and then there was quite a number of spelling mistakes in it, so thank you for doing such an amazing job. We sing again hymn number 83 in the Purple Book, Just as Long as I Have Breath. I think we missed the first, because I thought, oh, we've got an introduction, this one. We haven't. So we'll make an assumption that every other hymn that we sing today, there's no introduction. We're going straight in. Here's a short story in the aftermath of the attack on the 7th of October in Israel. It's written by Edgar Keret. He's a writer of short stories and a filmmaker. For 20 years, Yechiel Nachman prayed to his God. 20 whole years in which not a day passed without him praying for marriage, for livelihood, for good health, and for peace. But nothing happened. Yechiel Nachman remained a penniless, asthmatic bachelor, and peace was nowhere on the horizon. Yet he still communed with his God each day, never missing a single one of his 3 daily prayers. Deep in his heart, Yechiel had made peace with his prayers going unanswered, because his prayer was the pure yearning for compassion and justice, whereas his life was life. It was therefore only natural that two such contrasting worlds could never converge. But on the 7th of October 2023, something in him broke. Even before he had time to absorb the news, Yechiel found himself wrapped in a prayer shawl on the balcony of his apartment, neither eating nor drinking, but praying for hours on end, praying for peace for both sides. The next morning, after 20 consecutive hours of prayer, Yechiel opened the Home Front app on his phone, only to find nothing had changed. He put on his coat, walked to the home of his rabbi, and said, "I no longer have any faith. But before I remove my yarmulke and cut off my side locks, I've come to say goodbye." The rabbi gave Yechiel a probing look and asked serenely what had made him lose his faith. Distraught, he replied, "All night long I prayed to the Holy One for the souls of the hostages and for those that took them. I did not pray in a half-hearted way, but with true and whole intention, but even so nothing happened. I no longer believe. I do not believe in a God who hardens his prayer to heart as pure as mine." "With whole intention," the rabbi repeated, stroking his beard. "May I ask exactly how whole this intention was?" Yechiel was offended. "How whole? Completely whole." "Completely whole it was not," said the rabbi, shaking his head sadly. "For had it been, it would have been granted. Your prayer must have been almost whole. More whole than usual, perhaps, but still not whole enough." He placed a fatherly hand on Yechiel's shoulder. "I suggest that instead of you cutting off beards and side locks, you put a little more effort into your prayers. Judging by the tremor in your voice, I sense you are very close." So Yechiel went back to his apartment, put on his prayer shawl again, and resumed his prayers. While he prayed, he searched for rifts in his faith and cracks in his intention, and found that even though most of his time he really was praying wholeheartedly, there were moments in his prayer where he was divided. He saw the selfish thoughts that were disrupting his prayer, and he tried gradually to remove them from his mind. Like a man trying to push a heavy load up a hill, Yechiel sweated and panted as he prayed. He sweated and panted until the thoughts completely uprooted from his heart and he could make way for more intention of faith. The prayer felt so different. There was a genuine aching in his heart, an aching for all beings, including his enemies. He kept uttering his prayers like a rider who had lost control of his horse. 30 hours he prayed. Yechiel turned on the home front app and found that 2 of the hostages had been released, and those at the very moments there were negotiations with the enemy for a ceasefire. He walked into the synagogue that evening. Yechiel noticed Rabbi watching him tenderly. When their eyes met, the rabbi smiled and nodded. Yechiel felt as if he were no longer walking on a filthy concrete sidewalk, but hovering above the clouds of heaven. Now, he thought, with the big problems on their way to being solved, I can devote my next prayer to myself. He prayed for a wife and child. At first, his intention was to be matched with the cashier from the grocery store. But he did think, well, maybe I can expand my attention. Just send me a wife. He felt a spiritual elevation as he prayed. He prayed and prayed without stopping until he found himself lying on the floor with a bruised forehead. While the neighbor from upstairs bandaged his wound, she told him he'd had a serious fall and he must see a doctor immediately. He thanked her, explained he was really tired, and his intention was to have a nap and to get some rest. What he did do is he went to the groceries. He saw the radiant smile of the cashier. He thought, this is the sign. My intention has been granted. They got talking about food, and he promised the cashier the next time he came in, he would bring her a bottle of rice vinegar. At night, lying in his bed with his eyes open, Yechiel thought to himself how wonderful and simple the world was. He'd endured such suffering only because he didn't know how to pray. That was the last thought that went through his mind before he shut his eyes forever. The doctor explained to Yechiel's grief-stricken parents that when he'd fallen and hit his head, he'd suffered a brain injury. And that instead, if he had not gone to sleep and gone to the emergency room, there may have been a chance. Yechiel's spirit was not all sorrowful. In the afterworld, all was good. All completely good, wholly good. Yechiel spent hours in deep conversation with the Creator. As he looked back on his life, he began to understand what intention really meant. It wasn't just a thought, but it needed to be followed by action. And sometimes, although good, his own willful intention was not the path. Story of Yechiel. We come again to sing together hymn number 21, Come and Find the Quiet Centre. We'll stand and get ready, and then Stuart will press the button. Find the space where we are free. In the chaos, in the clutter, there are words that we can say. All the things that really matter, be at peace and simply be. Silence is a friend who claims us, moves the hate and slows the pace. Lord, it is who speaks and names us, knows our being, touches face. Making space within our thinking, lifting shields to show the sun. Raising courage when we're shaken, finding scope for faith begun. In the Spirit, let us travel, open to each other's pain. Let our lives and fears unravel, celebrate the space we gain. There's a place for deepest dreaming, there's a time we want to care. In the spirits of His keeping, there is always That's a reminder that we need to buy the license that stops the adverts. Attention for this week. So the words of that hymn, come and find a quiet centre in the busy life that we lead and the noisy life that we lead, and phones going off and all sorts of things going on. We're always wanted, aren't we, somewhere or the other. So that's perfectly timed for us to have some quiet reflection in our service, a time for us to come together and to just reflect on the two readings that we've listened to this morning. The fable of the child who used their gifts for the intention to help others, and the story of a Jewish man who learnt about the power of wholehearted prayer. So make yourself as comfortable as you can in your seat. Come to your breath. And just acknowledge the miracle of the breath and the rise and the fall, the sustenance of life. We use the word God loosely, whether you have a belief or you're coming to believe or you don't believe. We sit together in this sacred space to feel the power of this community. And the beauty and the miracle of the life of the little ones. So let us sit together just for a few moments to think about the intentions that we carry, whether they're large or small. God of all names and none, the bringer of light and love and clarity to our confused minds, may we see the gratitude in all that we have in our lives, whether that's large or small. The time that we spend with each other in this sacred space, with the intentions of getting to know you more and becoming closer to you, allowing the infinite power to deepen our love. Give us the courage to face our own realities and shortfalls with compassion and forgiveness, and that we can afford this same gift to others. May we be mindful of the intentions that we set ourselves each and every day. Bring us the compassion to forgive ourselves when we fall short, and to acknowledge that some of our intentions are misguided. Give us the open mind to accept the mistakes that we make and be willing to start again in this moment, and in this moment. Amen, and blessed be. Be brave, be fierce, be visionary. Mend the parts of the world that are within your reach. To live this way is the most dramatic gift you can ever give to the world. Consider yourself assigned. Sounds like a Bond movie, doesn't it? This is your assignment. When I found that earlier on in the week, there was this sense of we're always in a space maybe of we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do something else. And we may set off on these great paths only to fall at the first hurdle, especially in January, when we go, right, we're going to do this, and then it all falls aside. So I invite you to listen to this next story with that sort of open mind. It's a story about two women who went out with the intentions of helping others, only to find that their best-led intentions were not the correct way to go. The story is read, it's a dual effort, so it's read by Raymond and Sean, so I'm going to leave it to you both.
Faith in Action Initiative. Be brave, be fierce, be visionary. Mend the parts of the world that are within your reach. To live this way is the most dramatic gift you can ever give to the world. Consider yourselves assigned. Your assignment by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Brittany Merrill Underwood and Kate Van Doore are two women, one from the United States and the other from Australia, who were forced to pause and answer these questions as to whether their well-meaning intentions were helping or adding to a situation. They each began with the best of intentions to care for orphans by opening up an orphanage. They were passionate, educated young women, fueled by their faith and good intentions, yet unaware of the true reality of the children that they were seeking to help. Brittany's passion was ignited while on a trip to Uganda as a college student during a meeting with Sarah, a young Ugandan woman caring for 24 orphans in her home. Inspired by the young woman's selflessness, Brittany returned to the United States, committed to easing the burden of women like Sarah by building an orphanage. However, in 2007, while visiting the families living in rural villages, Brittany began to realize that many of the children she had initially thought were orphans actually had a living parent or relative who loved them, but who were unable to provide for their needs due to poverty and lack of support. As for the true orphans, many women like Sarah were willing to bring them into their homes, but they were also in need of support. Therefore, Brittany's initial response began to transform into a vision that would allow children to grow up in a family rather than in an orphanage. This vision developed into Akola Project, a nonprofit enterprise that empowers women to become agents of transformation in their families and communities through economic development. Akola has since provided hundreds of Ugandan women with training and employment in creating high-end jewelry, accessories, and other products that can be purchased by individuals in the United States.
Reflecting back on her journey, Brittany realised that one of the biggest obstacles in the development of Acola was finding the courage to admit that there was a better way. She had to confess that her solution to the brokenness was well-intentioned, but misguided. Brittany started afresh and developed a solution that not only provided for orphans and vulnerable children, but also created economic empowerment for their families and restoration for the brokenness in their communities. Kate's story began in Brisbane, Australia, at the invitation of a friend who had recently returned from Nepal with a plan to build an orphanage. Their organisation was registered under the name Forget Me Not in 2005, and a year later the first children moved into the Forget Me Not Children's Home in Kathmandu. Unlike Brittany's experience, it would take several years for Kate and her colleagues at Forget Me Not to uncover the ineffectiveness of and corruption within many orphanages. In 2011, at the Ugandan orphanage, Forget Me Not had agreed to support fraudulent activity at the hands of an orphanage director was uncovered. Hoping to cover her tracks, the director kidnapped the children and moved them to an unknown location. Fortunately, the children were recovered. Soon after, Kate and a colleague learned that the children had been trafficked from their families into the orphanage. Around the same time, Forget Me Not's newly hired country director in Nepal discovered that the children living in their orphanage were not, in fact, orphans. Once gaining her trust, many of the children revealed to the director that they had families living throughout the country. In both Uganda and Nepal, parents desperate for their children to receive an education had often paid recruiters to take their children to school in the capital city, expecting them to return home on school holidays. However, instead of attending school, the children became a means for the orphanage to raise funds through international fundraising and volunteer programs. After their discoveries in Nepal and Uganda, Forget Me Not made the decision to transition away from supporting orphanages to working to reunify the children back with their families and to support families in staying together. When you know better, you do better, is a phrase that has become the sort of mantra for Kate and Forget Me Not. Now that they know better, they are doing better through. Cool.
Thank you. Thank you. So we've heard a lot about other people's intentions. And here we are in the month of January with its talk of daring resolutions, demanding calls to be better, sign up to the gym. Don't know if you've had of those on your WhatsApp media feed. Use this type of thing and your skin will become like that. All of those things. I'm going to be tidier, going to be more manageable with my finances, the whole stuff that comes with the new year. Or you may have just ignored it all. Wise, very wise. Brittany and Kate courageously acknowledged their misguided intentions. How amazing would it be if we were all like Tim? That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Just had those intentions and everything changed. And then Yechiel, desperately wanting and intending to send out love and compassion to all. And yet he was a human being and also wanted things for himself. Are we sure that this is what we really want? New life, new body, new finance spreadsheet? Are we excited about the new year? that striving to create a brand new you? Or do you notice an internal whisper? Actually, what I really long for is to be pulled in deeply to the self that I already am. In other words, maybe our new year is not about pushing forward into self-improvement, but about pausing, stepping back, and asking, what is the hunger in my own heart? There is a difference between becoming better and becoming. Some of us want to get from A to B. We want to get to the end of our list, finish the decorating. That's what I was trying to do yesterday. The intention was to finish all 4 walls. I got to 3 and then gave up because I was tired. So, the intention was best laid, and then the sofa called for a lie down. There's nothing wrong with pursuing a goal, stretching towards something. But if we're doing that without the security and the stability of our own inner intentions, they will be lost. Marianne Williamson says, your day is pretty much determined by how you spend your first hour. What I want to add to that is you can also start your day again at any time. In the next few weeks, we'll meet for our AGM, a time for us to look at our church, what we've done in the last year, to congratulate those who've stood the course and helped us in so many ways. And also to witness and vote for those whose intention is to step up and give their time to this precious sacred space. It's a time for us to set our intentions as a congregation. Where is our focus this year, especially with those who need us most? We have a sign on the front door. Many of you probably know it well. Some of you may never have read it. But that sense of our intention of we welcome everyone here who seeks something. It's actually slightly bigger than that, but that's the summary. So that is the intention of this church. We welcome, we open the doors, we welcome anybody who wants to seek a spiritual journey, without saying you must do it this way, you must do it that way. How well do we do? Is sometimes our intention to be loving and kind received as over-helpful and controlling? Is sometimes our intention falls short because of our own lack of energy and our needs not being met? There's no judgment here. It's just we sit here and make a pause and think about how we are as a community. There's maybe people in this congregation this morning who've come for the first time. Be interesting to ask them if our intention is being met. And if it isn't, we can do better. We have a General Assembly, our little umbrella organisation that looks after us all. They have a really clear intention to promote a free and inquiring religion through the worship of God and the celebration of life, the service of humanity and respect for all creation and the upholding of the liberal Christian tradition. I know for some of us, that intention of the General Assembly grates on us slightly. But as Unitarians, we need to remember that our intention is about encompassing all, whatever your faith, belief, or non-belief is. The GA will meet in April, and although I think their statement probably won't change, there will be motions and discussions about where our religious organisation is headed. So that puts the context of this church into the Unitarian faith. But as I said earlier, it's about where we are as individuals. It begins with us. We rush through our life, creating projects and goals, and maybe we're deluded in thinking that these are our intentions. But actually, is an intention about how we wish to live with ourselves in this complicated and busy world. There's a book called The Book of Joy, and it really is a book of joy. That's what I was doing at Christmas. It's written by the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu, and those two together are just a joy to be held. And when you read it, you can imagine them speaking, and there's a lot of giggling and laughing about it. And there's something in the book that talks about the intention. And the Dalai Lama says, I set my intention for the day that this day should be meaningful. Meaningful means, if possible, to serve and help others and look after myself. If not possible, then at least it is not to harm others. That's a meaningful day. I think the two were trying to outdo each other, because Desmond Tutu will go, well, yes, that's all very well, but mine's slightly different. I get up really early in the morning and do my praying. And my intention for the day is, may I be at peace with all creatures, including myself. So these two huge figures, they had a very different experience of what intention was. But actually, was it that different? A meaningful day to give something to somebody else and to find peace within ourselves. I don't often set a task. I don't know if I've ever set a task in a service. Well, I'm going to set one now. And you can ignore it. You can do it really well and work really hard at it, or you can just allow it to pass over your head. But my invitation for this month, January, as well as doing your steps and your whatever else you're doing, is to make room. Not to create goals, but to make room. Maybe that intention is to create a quiet space that allows us to connect for who we are. It could be for a minute a day. You don't have to be particularly holy about it. You can do it while you're having your cup of tea in the morning, or walking the dog, or whatever, even brushing your teeth. But that question of, what's my intention for today? Not, right, well, I need to do the shopping, and I need to go and see Mrs. Brown, and I need to clean that oven, and I need to send that in. What is my inner soul's intention? What is my inner soul's desire? I'm looking at the time because we're running out. How would it be if we gave ourselves that gift? It could be in the morning, it could be in the evening before you go to bed. What's my intention for myself? What's my intention for others? It may not work for you. You may need a list. You may be somebody who does a lot. That's okay. Your intention may be to get to the end of your list. But I do invite you to create that space with a God with no name. And maybe we'll decide it's enough to simply finally be ourselves. Amen. We sing our final hymn together, 98. No idea if it has an introduction or not. It's like a little lottery, isn't it? It's like, are we going to get an introduction? Are we not? 98, Love Will Guide Us.
Sing like angels, if you can, sing in tongues, you can be from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace will strike us. Up inside us, when lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the night.
Before our blessing, I'll leave you with some closing words by Parker J. Palmer. Before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, listen for what it intends to do with you. Before you tell your life what truths and values you have decided to live up to, let your life tell you what truths you embody, what values you represent. As we have been blessed by this time with each other this morning, may we bless one another. You are more than you know and more beloved than you know. Take up what power is yours to create a safe haven, to make of earth a heaven. Give hope to those you encounter, that they may know safety from inner and outer harm. Try to be at peace with yourself, and may the blessing you already are be enough. May you go well, may you go peacefully, and may you go with intention. Amen.